Gale Force in terms of the strategies they got going on.
Well, let's see what Battleground it is. You would generally think that it would be Cursed Hollow that Gale Force picks, as we've seen that happen, right, with the Vikings, with the Morales Illidan composition of yesterday. But that is a question that we posed. What is left in the bag of strategies when Lag Force pushes you to reverse sweep them after winning 2 games in a row? Gale Force has given up first pick. They're taking us to Dragonshire, so it's something. It is something here on Dragon that they're planning to do in this game to hopefully once again start the reverse sweep.
A reverse sweep against Lag Force, and I go, you know, tip the hat, I'm impressed. A reverse sweep against Roll20, and I say, not possible. So Gale Force,
I would agree.
Best of luck here. Tassadar is going to be the first step to see if it is in fact a reality, as the Ariel already removed, and Roll20 is going to get Justing his ETC here. Well, that could be Goku's too. It doesn't have to be Justing.
That's true. Someone will be bringing the Mega Death for Roll20. I hope it's Justing. I want Mosh. I don't want any of the stage dives either. But it does leave things flexible for Roll20 if they do need Goku to play that hero at the top lane. So now Gale Force have 2 picks. Is it continued globals? It's Dragonshire, so it would allow them to be able to force rotations around, try to maybe steal beacons, but also it doesn't set up necessarily for them to be really strong in the fighting aspect. So instead they're going to get their Vala back and go for a new Barak.
Which screams to me the transition that Gale Force is trying to make when they get pressured. It's going to be supports. They're going to try and go more hyper carry. I think I was going to try and pose it is if they pick the Dahaka there, they're going back to the norm. But if they don't end up picking the Dahaka there, it's like, it's so good on a map like Dragonshire, so meta in that type of rotation. It just goes, does it play to the strengths of Gale Force enough to win the series? And I'm glad that they avoided it. It does make me still concerned because obviously now you're going to be struggling in globals. That's never something you want to say for Gale Force esports, especially when it accents a map. It's hard, but I'm glad to see Gale Force at least make some kind of adjustments. And the High Vala says this is going to be the fan hyper carry show. How can we enable them best? But Ariel's already banned out,
exactly.
So we're removing a lot of that core. ETC can synergize well with the Uther pickup. We've already postulated that could be the core of double support. So Gale Force esports, wow, they're even going to pick up the Rhaegar with the opportunity to ban it. They're going to be pressured to where neither one of those are proper. So we're going to see a tier 3 or at least a brand new strategy for Gale Force, I feel.
It may be that Morales.
It may be the Morales. I just don't know if that is enough to be able to recover. I hope it is here for Gale Force.
When picking Dahaka ETC, it will be Justing playing ETC, so we will hopefully be getting to see his mosh pits, but because Anubarak and Vala were already taken, there's already a lot of interrupts with Reign of Vengeance and everything that Anubarak has to offer. But with Dahaka, we've got Goku back on Dahaka, which means every drag pretty much is going to be hitting. And then Rhaegar for Buds to make rotations with the team, give that big burst heal, and importantly be able to help out with the wave clear. Gale Force is looking at Falstad. Roll20 has been playing a little more Falstad. They've been, especially on Dragonshire, picking heroes for Glaurung like Falstad or Zeratul that allow him to make a lot of clever ganks possible for the team. So Gale Force are at least going to say, you can't have Dahaka and Falstad.
But it is a bit of a double-edged sword, considering that Gale Force esports themselves traditionally like to have that Falstad. Also, the Falstad indicates that maybe there was interest in the Malthael into the mismatch laning of Malthael versus Dahaka for Goku up on top. So Roll20, I mean, they took almost no time to be like, blip, that one's off the battlefield here. And suddenly the top lane is now open territory. Do you put Mike Udall back onto an Illidan to be able to trade into that? That hasn't looked that successful. I'm going to be honest, I want something like the Leo, something new, something different that accents the map. We've seen other regions make it work. There's got to be a difference here for Gale Force, and it does feel like the Leoric has to be the direction they go. Or a Zagara with that Lieutenant Morales.
They have Zagara for the range damage, the immense amount of pressure that she can put onto any lane when she is soloing. And then Akaface brings back Lieutenant Morales, not having a Falstad. Zeratul will be the pick for Glaurung. Everything going as planned. Is this a Prismaticism Chromie? Is this a Prismaticism Nazebo? Both are possible picks here.
Jaina would be so good. Lieutenant Morales dies so hard to Zeratul Void Wombos, so does Zag. And also Jaina provides wave clear and kill potential to the 4-man. It's one of the few cases like this is screaming. They go for a later slow play by the Nazebo. Man, I would have liked a lot more offensive here from Roll20. And there's the Vikings. So now the Nazebo pick paid off a lot easier. It's a lot safer. It's not as teeter-tottery as I like to put it there for the earlier stages. Still feel like I like the Jaina the most, but...
Gale Force are the Team Liquid of Dragonshire. Or of Dragonshire. Team Liquid are the Team Liquid of Dragonshire. Gale Force is the Team Liquid of North America. We're getting Vikings back on Dragonshire. That has been so long since this has been played, but it is something that Team Liquid has done many a time.
So, I'm a little scared. There's a lot to say on the Dragonshire Vikings Zeratul situation here.
You're talking about Grim Task?
Yeah, well, okay, so let's just start off because I feel like we've never had a Vikings on Dragonshire in North America, flat out. So if you don't watch Europe, you might not even know how this is going to be played. There's two different ways you can go for it. One is to kind of be the, the ever other traditional Vikings play where you go, well, you go here, well, I'm going to be annoying, capture the top shrine. Isn't that neat? Kind of global-esque and abusing that. The other is to be a tri-lane proxy solo top. Yep. And that is the most effective by far and what I hope to see here for Gale Force. And so that is essentially Bela going beyond the fort, proxying. The other one, Eric is capturing always up on top while Olaf is just kind of skirmishing around, and you are just essentially making that top laner, if he doesn't have wave clear, lose so much pressure and you never gain the top shrine. But then there's a Zeratul, and a Dahaka is never going to struggle. Dahaka has that wave clear. He's totally fine with tanking the minions. He's never going to be drained, and Zeratul is going to be picking those up left and right. Also, Zagara is vulnerable to the Zeratul. We haven't even talked about Roll20 picked the Zeratul into the Zag of Lag Force last time. They want teams to pick Zeratul. Or Zag. It's literally like Glarn goes, all right, pick me the Zeratul. It's over. It's just way too much pressure for them to deal with.
Gale Force is employing a double specialist strategy to start their reverse sweep against Roll20. We'll see if it works out. Here they are in the blue, Gale Force. Mike's going to be playing the Zagara. Not sure if you got to see yesterday, but it's K1 Pro who now plays Vikings for Gale Force esports.
I was sitting at home, and when I saw, the fact that K1 Pro was in fact not, or was on the, was on the Vikings, man. Cut that one, guys. Jesus.
Well, editing?
Yeah.
Take two.
All right, take two. But yeah, when I did see he was on the Vikings, it was a bit of a, kind of scratching the head type moment there. But I'm not surprised. He was a player of them in the past temporarily for a small window, back on other rosters that he's competed for. And he's pretty effective. But do we see the Grim Task? I don't think we even have to see it for Glarong there at level 4, moving into that to pick off the Vikings. But it is a direction they can go. He has picked Vorpal at 1, which indicates most likely a normal build. Typically, if you go the Grim Task, you see at level 1 more Q focus because you, in general, have more damage output if you go with Q build in Grim Task.
Things that are going to help Gale Force esports: Viking bribery. Clear has indicated that Akafe is probably going to be, it already gives some cooldown reduction once he finishes, or once he gets 15 of the 30 heroes necessary for the full quest done. But he's not going to have that for quite a while, and already Roll20 is trying to get a pick on that Lieutenant Morales. Goku comes in, Justing is there, first blood for Roll20.
Very effective job from Roll20, and as long as they can find a way to dismantle the pressure of this 4-man consistently like this game will get out of hand very, very quickly. It is important that Gale Force is not only ahead in the early game, they are destructive for the first couple of minutes of this match, and to fall behind in this and see Roll20 controlling the laning phase is legitimately the exact opposite purpose of the composition Gale Force has drafted. Zag and Vikings are known to be lane bullies here.
Well, later on, Akaface can get even more grenades with Second Opinion as a cooldown reduction. That's going to help a lot once Zeratul peeks his head into team fights. That's a long way from now, level 13. And meanwhile, Gale Force is splitting up the Vikings. One is hanging out with Zagara in the top lane versus a Dahaka. And Roll20 is keeping Zeratul in the mid just to clear out when he can and then rotate back around to see where he can get some picks and help out. But Gale Force esports keeping up, being a little bit ahead in experience at least.
I just find it kind of interesting, the fact that Gale Force esports find themselves in a situation to where they have to commit one of the Vikings to top lane. It does seem just like a bit kind of, out of place.
Agreed.
Traditionally, Zag came into the meta because she was a direct counter to the top lane of Dahaka. It was a straight laning mismatch where Dahaka just couldn't hold his own, and she would win that almost 80 to 90% of the time. Does Eric's commitment for the extra 10% really separate the loss that he might have in other lanes here for Gale Force esports? It's looking like the answer so far is yes, as Vikings do end up getting this first Dragonite.
I had wondered if maybe it was respect, super deletion from Bola. I wondered if it was maybe respect for Goku's Dahaka. Maybe Michael Udall just wanting to have a little bit of extra damage in the top lane. Now it is going to come in handy because Zagara and Eric are staying in the top. Zeratul and Dahaka starting to get back in there. And Zagara is going to leave, but Glarong sees this.
And
slow it down enough. Singularity Spike does slow
If he had the intent to get the kill there, he would have teleported to be able to get the body block earlier. I feels like definitely was a bit timid over trying to get that kill, but applying the pressure here. But Gale Force is really the one applying pressure. After that, those early 2 kills of Roll20, this Dragonite, though, has been able to make a lot happen. We have to remember, that's a Vikings in there. They are not sacrificing anything by having him just go around and essentially just keep the Dragonite alive, auto-attacking for as long as possible. That's a win for Gale Force esports.
Lots of structural damage done to towers. Prismaticism is going to do what he can to slow that down with his zombie walls. But because Prismaticism is trying to still ramp up his stacks, he will be doing damage more and more later on. Drag hits. Glaurung still trying to get that final kill on Michael Udall, but not quite able to do that just yet. Gale Force esports continuing to not give up any of the reins in this game.
That's the second kill Glaurung has very uncharacteristically approached as a Zeratul. Glaurung, I mean, let's be real here, is one of the best Zeratals in North America, if not the best, and he has given essentially clinic on top of clinic on how to approach specific team fights, but the fact that Singularity Spike is coming out after the fact and not looking to improvise on getting the slow as fast as possible, it just seems like things aren't kind of going to plan yet he is just now breaking 7 Seeker, and the Dark's going to come online. Zeratul is a much more lethal hero at this mark. It just seems very unlike him. You know, I am concerned now for Roll20, seeing him on such a key hero and not making the big plays like we normally see.
It's a cool change up in Prismaticism build. I asked him about Pandemic, the Toad talent that he took at 1 last time, and he said it's just really, really good versus melees, even if you still go into Spider build for the rest of the Nazebo. This time he's getting Dead Rush, so more damage on Zombie Wall, and the zombies will uproot and chase and do more damage after that. We'll see how it works out. I'm wondering if this means that we might get something like the Ring of Poison later on for Prismaticism, or if it's just a 1 talent change up again.
Prismaticism, man, got to be one of the hardest to be able to predict those talents on top of. He's always comfortable getting that one-off, but then that's it. It's just the one-off, you know, not like some of the more flexible players we have in NA that like to get real weird here with the builds. But Night Camp picked up perfectly timed with the map objective here for Roll20. That's traditionally one of the better ways to approach a map like Dragonshire, always to make sure that your opponent essentially has a huge disadvantage now in one of those 2 lanes. Top now is the focus. So you see Glaurung looking to get that poke.
Also trying to keep the creep cleared as best he can. Justin has come in now. There's the body blocks that Roll20 needed to take out Zagara. That gives some time for Roll20 in this top lane. They can clear out creep, take back that shrine. But in the bottom lane, Gale Force doing, again, what they love to do, or at least what they are good at doing if they lose someone, which is try to take advantages elsewhere. They'll take out the well in the bottom lane and start doing some damage to the fort. And
it's one of those situations where, yes, it looks like Gale Force is getting something, and they are making stuff happen on the map, but is it enough considering their composition? And to be frank, the double specialist right now, the answer does feel like no. They will be in a better position post-10 with the Zagara having the opportunity to have that global, but it's not still a huge lead by any means, because Zeratul and ETC and Dahaka all can get that trace, follow her around. She's not a huge major setback, and the play again is going to be picked up, meaning the teamfight phase is going to fall off for Gale Force as well. There's just, much like with Abathur compositions, Toronto compositions, Vikings provide a specific playstyle you have to meet to be successful, and I'm not sure that Gale Force has gotten enough on this map.
Not just play again, but Nidus Network too for Zagara. So
yeah,
a lot more constant pressure in multiple lanes everywhere at once, but rotations on Dragonshire, you can make them pretty quickly when you have somebody, especially like a Zeratul. Just being off the map is enough to threaten maybe a positioning of a Zagara or a positioning of someone else. So that is potentially going to be enough for Roll20 to be able to deal with this composition of Gale Force, especially because Roll20 are right in there with Gale Force and experience.
So we'll see what they can make happen here, but Roll20, I expect to stagger some of those deaths, and now that the death timers have gotten longer, this is going to be the time where they get themselves a Dragonite. The first Dragonite went over to Gale Force because they have more bodies. They legitimately have 2 extra people to throw at the channeling aspect of this middle part and both of those shrines. So again, Roll20's ability to hold on to this game has been very impressive, and this is about the time where we can expect them to really pull ahead. But if Gale Force holds on, their composition, if it makes it post-20, it is, I mean, it is a devastating composition.
Roll20 did get stage dive over Mosh Pit. Fan was holding on to his heroic ability just to see what that was going to get taken, and after seeing the stage dive, went ahead and got strafe. Glaurung finds poor little Eric. takes him down. It's going to be Mike versus Glowering on the bottom, but Mike has the advantage of, first of all, being Zagara in that 1v1, but also just trying to, or has a Giant in that bottom lane and spotted out Glowering, so he couldn't get the jump on him. But now Dahaka is in the bottom lane. That'll help out Roll20 finally be able to get that beacon.
Force the isolation there on bottom too. That's a pretty big cooldown that Roll20 may want for themselves. Bottom shrine is in their control. Do we see the brush shock attempt outward? I don't believe he used that to get to the bottom lane, did he? So he should have the opportunity to transfer up to the top lane if necessary. But it does look like Gale Force is now kind of, changing the plan here, as they are now putting more emphasis towards the top lane rather than that of the bottom, feeling like they've achieved enough. And it's one of those situations where it's like the prioritization of the lane. Hold up here, the Void. Wow, Akaface is in a terrible position. Drag, stage dive, the damage is there. Does he have the opportunity to medevac? Nope, he dropped the stim before he survived. Doesn't even have that medevac. He's gone. The reveal of the cocoon, and Roll20 just gets a pick and done.
Yeah, Gale Force felt like they were trying to wear down Roll20 in rotations, make them back and forth everywhere until finally they find an opening, but it's Roll20 with stage dive who's able to force that first. Now, Vala's taken down, King Caffeine has to run back, and getting this shrine is great for Roll20, but for Gale Force, at least they have Zagara with Nidus Network, and they have the Vikings, so they've still been able to take the shrine in the bottom. All Gale Force is being able to do is make sure that Roll20 can't get a Dragon Knight.
Yeah, it does feel like Gale Force esports kind of has reverted to this just very attempt to not lose the game with how they end up playing their laning situation. And, I kind of talk about that quite a bit, about compositions that do look like they hold their own longer than they do. But if you are honest with yourself, how effective are they into a game like this? Gale Force, again, they looks close, but this game is not very much. They need to find a situation to where they can team fight, or they need to continue this trend that they've managed to make happen for another, again, 7 levels. But that is 7 levels is a long ways away because, experience gets bigger, the levels get harder to obtain as time moves on. Glowering getting that W is the only reason he escapes this up on top. A little bit of a misplay there for Fan.
Forcing Roll20 to continue going back and forth until Gale Force finds the opening. If they can, that might be the place where they could start to take down forts. And once they open up Dragonshire, once they take out the forts, then things get a lot rougher for Roll20. That's why we see Roll20 pushing as hard as they can, fighting to make sure that they're not losing these structures. Cocoon's been used.
The isolation they want to stop it. They are not going to let this go. Cap, Burrow charges away. Void Prison dropped.
Void Prison, Fan trying to do the damage outside of that, but Stage Dive and Goku on the other side, they're trying to focus the Morales as they normally would want to do. Nubarak goes down first. Goku still has the chase on Akaface.
Can't walk to any shrub. The drag lands before the turret is there. Another kill. A Dragon Knight will soon to come here for Roll20, unless these Vikings can be big enough of a problem. K1 Pro's Eric.
Vikings, Zag, and Vala are all that is there available to stop Roll20 from getting a Dragon Knight.
As long as he controls it, he's fine. He can hold on long enough now, I believe. We'll see. ETC's now there. He gets the drag. He's got to move to the shrub. He'll have the 20 movement speed.
A little bit of body blocking, but face mount gets Fan away. But Michael Udall and Fan stop Roll20 from getting a Dragon Knight. It really, maybe 16 now will be better for Roll20 esports, but it does feel like Roll20, until they can get to a point where those respawn timers are really long, they had 2 kills, and then one of the Vikings down at least, and they still could not get the Dragon Knight. That's just how many bodies Gale Force esports has, and the mobility with the Vikings with play again.
Oh, no, Buds! Okay, he got back. He got out. Eric went in. I'm sorry. He almost got the delay there. Whew. Almost went down. Tragic loss there up on bottom. Buds was willing to all in all 3 Vikings just by himself, take the 1 risk for death. And though it doesn't maybe mean that much to this game overall, it just shows Roll20 doesn't give up on anything, man. They're willing to take any ounce of an advantage that they can get. And right now they're finding it up on top as Fan is the first to fall. The cocoon is going to be revealed in a matter of seconds. And now we find ourselves with Gale Force just, again, staggering these deaths.
But Gale Force took down the fort. They got the fort in the bottom, but still going after Michael Udall, who throws out everything that he possibly can.
Oh, he misclicked!
Oh, no!
Either that or he gave up. Oh, yeah, he saw Glowering. He's got this. Never mind. Oh, my goodness. He barely makes it in. Mike Udall's right on out. Nope, Chuck Testa? He came back.
Oh, no! Eric's there. Oh.
He vorpaled back.
Wait, here comes the rest of Roll20. Run, Mike, run! He's got the creep. But
he's cutting back.
He's got the slow. There's the totem. He killed the totem. He had the Mutalisk. This was the strangest fight I've ever casted.
Body block on Prismaticism coming up from Calf. That's one dead Nazebo there. No ice block. Oh, he still's got it up. Not going to matter.
Yeah, he's not in enough of safety.
Okay.
So what do we got here? 2 for 2, but it's the Vikings.
I just am amazed that Zach came back out of that, and then he immediately voided. Just what was going on here? All right, where we do lie is Gale Force won that fight technically, considering they have still, they're outside of that 20 range. Olaf is now post 16, so he's a bit of a threat to deal with. The team fight is reasonable now for Gale Force esports. They've done it. Honestly, they have held on in that window that I didn't think they would be able to do so after that fight. Now that Nazebo's out for another 15, they're going to make that 20 window. And with that, they're going to be maybe too big of a problem, and we'll find ourselves with a game 4.
K1 Pro's going to start the channel. Nobody here at all to stop him. Gale Force esports gets the next Dragon Knight thanks to the Cocoon stopping. Buzz will come in with the cleanse, making sure that Justing is available to defend versus this Dragon Knight. But this is really good for Gale Force esports. They needed to start figuring out how they could siege down some of these forts, do structural damage, and with that, get ahead in experience and on their way to that 20. They're going to send the Dragon Knight to the bottom lane. The rest will siege up at the top of these bruisers.
Yeah, and it's more about what the Dragon Knight's able to make happen. We're at a 14-minute scaling DK. That is a ridiculous amount of damage output there. And into a Nazebo on his own, he's actually not going to get a lot done. Naz has one of the best defending heroes into this Dragon Knight, and K1 Pro, again, not paying too much attention. This is a huge waste of time. Essentially 40 seconds lost because this Dragon Knight went for the front wall. I know there's split pressure up on top, but it could have been done a bit better here. And that's going to be enough to where, yes, Gale Force, again, they're getting these victories, but it wasn't as much as they could have, again, with this composition.
Goodbye, sweet Olaf.
Sweet, sweet Olaf. They did make work up on top, though.
Yes, they got that fort down. There's only one fort left, and then this map will be so blue so fast for Gale Force.
There was another thing that I would have expected more out of Gale Force if they're going to go that direction. We have to consider the Dragon Knight was the seizure that was going to be, I mean, more intimidating than the 4-man of Gale Force esports. But they committed the 4-man up into top rather than putting them onto bottom. And so if they're going to respond to the Dragon Knight on top, you can commit the 4-man to push the most valuable lane, and you can be more effective with that siege, because you know Roll20 has to answer to the Dragon Knight, not the other way around. So they essentially defended the Dragon Knight most effectively in the most effective lane possible. It's a double loss there out of GFE.
Yeah, it almost seemed like Gale Force maybe thought that they would have time to rotate down and get the second fort too, and just trying to get the experience spike from that, as well as opening up the Battleground so that the next Dragon Knight that they get is basically unstoppable from Roll20 because there's just pressure everywhere. We know how Gale Force wants to play this super global style of specialist composition, and mainly with the Zagaras. They just want to keep Roll20 in a spot somewhere, dealing with something, and then elsewhere, Zagara is just bringing down a keep in the randomest time possible.
One thing also with the draft, remember when we were talking about that last pick, the Naz, and going such a slow play style into the Zagara and the Lost Vikings here. Now a question that I don't necessarily have the answer to, we're going to find unfolding here. What's better, the oppressive laning of a double specialist post-20 or just Vile Infection alone? Is that enough to put them over the threshold, and is the team fight now of Nazebo just too devastating? I honestly don't know. I think it's Nazebo's too big of a problem, but only if Glaurung can effectively start fights. And to be frank here, Glaurung hasn't been making effective moves this game. The Zeratul has been unimpactful throughout all stages of the game.
We'll take out a lone Baylog in the mid, but Gale Force once again now are setting up to see where they can get the pressure going with the comp. They do have Endless Creep. That's going to help Zagara if she gets started chased down with Zeratul, as we've seen before. Hyperactivity, so more stem drones more often, and then checkpoint reach. That's an annoying comp now that 20 is here for Gale Force.
The pressure of GFE is up towards top as the norm. Roll20 is up on bottom. K1 Pro's getting picked off left and right there. Those Vikings so hard to keep alive at this stage of the game. Good job for fans staying out of Goku's drag there. The pressure onto the bottom fort could pay off for Roll20, but it's not going to add up to the fact that Gale Force is applying pressure towards a keep up and top, so they need to be swift here with their decision making, and it looks like they'll do just that. They take out the bottom fort.
as Gale Force just rounds out that top keep.
Zeratul still getting the siege camp in the bottom too, and Nazeebo and Rhaegar aren't leaving yet. Justin did come back to help Goku. And this is a really hard place to siege. It's the death bridge. Yesterday we saw a point where Lag Force were willing to jump in on the death bridge and get a kill, but it was only because they had the slowing sands. They were going to get a guaranteed disengage. They do have King Caffeine, who can do exactly what he's doing right now, but a contagion hits multiple members, and with Fan going down right at the start of this, things don't look good for Gale Force as they try to escape.
They're trying to escape. Akaface, though, is not going to make it out. Justing's knockback's the thing that seals the deal there, and again, no medevac. The Dragonite was picked up for Gale Force esports, but that's a Viking in it with nobody to siege behind it now as 2 members are dead for another 60 seconds. I'm going to be honest, Gilly, I'm flat tilted with the decision-making over the past 2 minutes for Gale Force esports. The split push up onto the top lane twice in a row, back-to-back with the ineffective laning, and then to sacrifice 2 people just for a Dragonite? I mean, I know things look grim, and that maybe they haven't been going to plan with this, but this is decision-making just backwards for Gale Force esports. Things in the world of shot calling seems to be falling apart.
See how much this Dragonite can get done to the keep. It doesn't take it out. Gets about 2/3, but it is just a full-on sacrifice trying to take out the keep. And it's not there for Gale Force. All of the stuns, the control of Roll20, stop it there.
But Roll20 hasn't been able to make anything happen other than stopping the sieging and split pressure, right? But death timers are now, I mean, they're huge. So it's, can Roll20 get enough now out of these death timers? And I think that they will be able to do so to make it to where that laning oppression doesn't matter. There is still no keep captured here. Again, with the double specialist of Gale Force esports, 19 minutes and 45 seconds into this game. Zag is up on top once more to try and get that keep, but there's now 4-man pressure up on bottom. Dahaka is going to match her out, and it's just whether or not she can evenly trade into the 4 members of Roll20 here on bottom. They have a void if necessary, stage dive, all the heroics.
Spot is just so nice for Roll20 if they're able to get this keep, and they've done a ton with the Vile Infection, the Voodoo Ritual. The keep ticks down, and it will live barely for now. Just one more setup. One more Singularity Spike Plow goes in to make sure that the keep goes down. And this means that even though Gale Force did sacrifice the Viking, sacrifice 2 Dragon Knights in that bottom lane,
it was worth.
It's still Roll20 who gets a keep first.
But it was worth because Zag did at least go 1 for 1, and that was a huge victory for them. The question is the lane that win is in important enough? Glorong moves forward. He voids. He only hits Akaface. Stage dive goes down. Justing's a kind of on an island. Buds, no Ancestral. He drops the cleanse. There goes on to Glorong.
King Caffeine's diving in on top of all the members of Roll20, but Roll20 pretty survivable. Buds is the problem. The Vikings will bring him down at the cost of an Olaf and an Eric. Still, the Vikings are the ones to lose. They have checkpoint reached.
They do end up dropping there. K1 Pro even flanking with that Viking for a second. Olaf's going to go up towards top, capture this top shrine. The 1-for-1 trade is very much in favor of the members of Gale Force esports here. That was, again, very uncharacteristic of Glorong on the Zeratul, left and right with the decision-making to open with just a raw void onto Akaface at full HP. Hold up, though. Oh, man, being able to burrow charge on that was the difference from, I mean, maybe life and death in this game if all King Caffeine goes down there.
Yeah, the void was pretty far into the base of Gale Force. The follow-up Zombie Raw underneath it was really good, though. The problem was that King Caffeine's counter-aggression, the way he burrow charged in, there was nobody. He was a wall by himself, basically. Again, counter-aggression as Goku comes in looking for Fan. There's a stim drone. Fan's going to be doing a lot of damage here, but it's Akaface who's in trouble.
Glorong splits the focus over to Fan and ends up getting enough damage. Strafe goes down. Justing is quick to drop. 3 members of Gale Force are dead, but the death mosh is real. Landing on Dustin Nubarak. Isolation is used. And Roll20 find themselves another kill. Zag is the last man standing. Play again is there for the Vikings, if necessary. But Buds is now looking to round it up here on that Rhaegar, get the heals, and Roll20 is looking to march up towards this core.
They've got Rhaegar running back into. He has Ancestral Healing back as a way of keeping Prismaticism alive. It's Zagara and some Vikings versus the world.
Gilly,
if they don't do this effectively, they're going to throw this game. Dragon Knight is going to be picked up by the Vikings through mid, and this is an all-in core. They have to siege with this, and I don't know if they can. Zag is a very good defender in this type of situation.
22 minutes into this game as Roll20 step onto the core of Gale Force Esports. They're starting to bring it down quickly between the 3 members here. Michael Udall doing what he can as Eric runs back for more damage. The core is at 50% and continuing to go down, and they have done it. Roll20 takes down Gale Force in a decisive core call against all odds. All of the Vikings, all of the Zagara, Niduses, Banelings, everything. Roll20 3-0s Gale Force Esports.
Only game dropped by Roll20 so far out of every opponent that they have faced has been to even in depth. And other than that, they have just been dominating here in the North American scene, now finding themselves at 18-1. That is just ridiculous. And honestly, I am so excited to see a team be as dominant as them so far here in part number 2. It makes me optimistic towards North America's chance moving forward, but I still feel like there's room to improve, especially after these games. It did feel like Glowing was a bit off, even though the counter-aggression was there. I mean, just even how the ganks were approached by Glowing. It felt like, he's like, I haven't played Zeratul in a long while. He's been playing too many range or something.
Maybe a little rusty on the Zeratul, but even still, Roll20 gets that 3-0 win. They join Team Freedom at the top of the standings, which makes next week very exciting. Next week, Roll20 plays Space Station Gaming, and Team Freedom plays Tempo Storm. So we'll see who ends up at the very top of the standings, #1 from North America for the HGC finals at BlizzCon, but it does seem like it'll be between one of those 2 teams.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be very difficult for anybody else to say otherwise because, I mean, again, the performance that they have had as of late has been absolutely unreal. And to be honest, I feel like I'm glad to see that those teams are the ones sitting there because they really feel like they are the ones who have earned it, especially as a FART 2. I mean, they have really just kind of come in and just been like, yes, we may have the youth, but our work ethic is going to be there, and looking kind of, and honestly, even Freedom's calling out other teams at that point, but just kind of calling out the rest of North America and be like, we're going to lead through action, not so much through the words, and it's showing.
Yeah, these 2 teams really do feel like the very best of the best for North America right now after all of the effort that they have both put in. Let's check in now with Glaurung from Roll20 after they 3-0'd Gale Force Esports. Glau, Goku kept telling us that you guys were going to hit the 3-0, but we didn't know. You guys knew it, though, this whole time. Talk to me about you guys' preparation and the types of strategies that you were employing today.
Okay, after we did really well against Freedom and Tempo, we realized that for us to clinch a BlizzCon spot, Gale Force is going to be like that final boss. So ever since that moment, we've been trying really, really, really hard to prepare a certain sequence of maps and strategies that they might not expect that's a little bit unorthodox and not necessarily our style. Because in the past we have been super one-dimensional, but having like 3 weeks to prepare for a specific matchup really helped. So yeah, I'm glad that like Goku was able to say we were going to 3-0, and we came here, played our best, and ended up 3-0ing. It's awesome.
Yeah, I want to hear about Warhead Junction because that's obvious that you guys had that strategy prepared for a while.
5 minutes, 12 seconds, I think.
Yep, it was pretty short. We weren't quite ready for that, but did you guys plan to have it that fast? Is that what you guys were aiming to do? Just tell me all about it.
So we've been doing strats similar to that for like roughly 3 months now. So we have a pretty good understanding of when we can win. And I think it's something we've practiced a lot, and we knew GFE wouldn't expect it, especially us taking them to Warhead, due to the fact that it was more likely if they had map choice, they would take us to Warhead.
Yes.
So that changes up their pick priority. And it's just all in all a good thing. We've been prepping really hard for GFE, so it feels amazing for it to pay off.
Yeah, congratulations to you. I will send you over to Dry. I'll talk to you in a second.
My only question for you, Glaurung, is just got to be, we heard Justin aiming for the 21-0, and it was not possible, but 21-1 is still possible. Next week, you got Space Station Gaming. Are we going to see 21-1?
I don't know. I haven't thought about that match at all. Only GFE. So, I hope so.
Okay, I'll take that. I just wanted to see if you had the confidence to just be like, yeah, it's going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to happen, Jed.
I believe it now. I believe it. Thank you.
Yeah, with a performance like that, it's hard not to believe it. Before I let you give shout-outs, Glau, I want to hear what it would mean to you guys and to you to be able to go back to HGC Finals at BlizzCon.
Going to BlizzCon to me means everything. For the past 3 years, winning a BlizzCon has always been the goal. And I've been pretty bad for the past 3 years, so hopefully this year we can, pull something out and do well at BlizzCon.
How do you feel like you guys will match up right now?
Right now, I think on the international stage, the two teams that I've been paying attention to are, I mean, obviously Fnatic is really good. That's not one of the two that like have been the rising stars that I've been watching. It's Dignitas and MVP Black. L5, MVP, Dig, and Fnatic are like the scariest teams right now. But I think if we're able to practice versus them, we can reach their level. I think right now we're pretty close.
That would be awesome to see. Congrats again, Glau. You guys deserve it. Shoutouts time.
Oh yeah, huge shoutouts to my team, of course. Like we worked really, really hard for this. Sometimes like the preparation was grindy, but like huge shoutouts to my team for putting in the amount of work we did. Shoutouts to Roll20, and they're awesome for supporting us, and thanks to all our fans.
Congratulations again. Good luck next week versus Space Station.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, guys.
21-1 would be pretty good.
It would be. You'd still have to run your laps, but you get the job done. Back to the baseball meme with the original 21-0. It's okay. I've gone full circle. Maybe a little bit far-fetched, but I'm still proud of that one.
Yeah, I couldn't get that one, but I'm sure there is someone out there who is very happy that you made that reference, Brad.
Thank you.
Well, we're not done with the weekend yet. We are going to have Tempo Storm versus Even in Death. Any thoughts on that match before we go to commercial?
I just, struggling Tempo Storm versus Even in Death, their fate is sealed. So it's a lot of this is going to be about progress for both sides. I think Tempo probably has more to prove than that of Even in Death now locking in that playoff range. So it's just going to be how dominant does Tempo look, or do we still see that kind of inconsistent in those struggles they've shown as of late?
Well, let's get to the commercial break, and when we come back, we'll have our final series of the weekend. This is HGC.
After discovering her factory and the surrounding city in danger of being invaded by beings from other worlds, CEO Katya Volskaya immediately began work on a new mech series to defend her homeland from the denizens of the Nexus. Now, the Triglav Protector is ready for testing. Volskaya Foundry is a medium-sized, 3-lane battleground. At the top, center, and bottom of the foundry sit 3 control points. Periodically, a control point will activate, and teams must vie for control of the point to acquire a massive mech vehicle. Ownership of a point can be gained by standing inside the designated area. However, if an enemy happens to also enter the area, the point will become contested until the foe is eliminated. Once a team assumes possession of a point, they will begin to accrue victory progress at a steady rate. Teams must remain in the area to continue this progress, as stepping away will eventually return the point to a neutral state. As in Overwatch, if a control point reaches 99% and an enemy remains to contest, the point will enter an overtime state. This overtime state will only last a few seconds, but it is reset whenever an enemy player steps onto the point. Once a team's victory progress finally hits 100%, they will close out the objective and initiate deployment of a Triglav Protector. The Protector is similar to other piloted objectives in Heroes of the Storm, like the Dragon Knight or Garden Terror, but it is unique as a 2-person vehicle. The first person to enter the Protector will assume its pilot position. This player will control the mech's movement and use of sieging and support abilities. Charge will propel the Protector toward a targeted enemy's position, dealing area damage around it and double damage to structures and minions. Rocket Fist launches a concussive fist that will root the first hero it hits or disable a targeted structure for a brief period of time. When activated, Shield Emitter will provide the mech armor and grant a shield to allies in its proximity. The second person to enter the Protector will take on the gunner position and has access to a deadly set of damage-dealing abilities. After a range-defining windup, the Protector's particle cannon can launch a projectile to a target location, dealing area damage upon impact. The mech can also initiate Gatling Cannon, unleashing an ongoing barrage of missiles at your cursor location for a brief period. Or activate its Scorching Laser to cut a line in the terrain that will trigger a delayed explosion for heavy damage. In addition to the Protector, spread across Volskaya Foundry are 5 mercenary camps, 2 siege camps, 2 turret mercs, and a singular support camp. Utilize the pushing power and activatable resources from these camps to bolster your team's aggression and push further into enemy territory. The control points across Volskaya are unique in a few ways. Each layout is different and will require you to engage the objective with a variety of tactical strategies. On top of that, the addition of moving conveyor belts around the points brings a dose of chaos that can amplify your team's approach or stifle it completely. Make sure you understand the direction each conveyor belt is moving around your point when you decide to engage or retreat. Even if your back is against the wall and it looks like the enemy is about to capture a point, do not lose hope. If you defensively dive a point before it hits 100%, the enemy cannot secure victory with you present. Safely hold your ground and get your team to back you for a team fight that could turn the tide. You do not want to underestimate the power of the Triglav Protector. In the hands of talented players, this mech can unload a ridiculous amount of damage. Volskaya Foundry is primed to test its remarkable new technology. How are you with mechs? Ready to be a pilot? A gunner? Or just a test dummy? We'll see you in the Nexus.
Heroes of the Storm. Get a Heroes Legendary Loot Chest included with Twitch Prime. Rated T for teen.